Hello. I thought I'd go over a few basic things in Chief Architect Home Designer Pro 2014. Common questions that come up. I just drawn a simple box model, and this is something that I recommend to people in terms of teaching themselves the software. Just draw a box and then practice some things and watch the effects. One of the most common questions is ceiling heights and so forth. Well, I mean, it turns out a lot of times that's the answer. The questions are something else. But I'm just going to open the dialog box here. You get a dialog box and you close a space with walls. And on the Structure tab, you'll see that the finished ceiling in this one out of the box is 107 5/8. And that's because the ceiling finish over here is set to 5/8. Ceiling structures 2x6s, 5.5. And you'll see this E and F. E is the rough ceiling. That's the structural from the unfinished floor to the unfinished ceiling is 109 1/8. And then, excuse me, the F is from the finished floor, which the finished floor out of the box is 7/8, and the finished ceiling is 5/8. So 7/8 plus 5/8 added to or subtracted from, excuse me, the rough ceiling gets you this 107 5/8. So if you want this thing to work exactly like you want to, then you have to set some of these settings yourself. Like, let's say that my space that I'm working on here has an 8-foot ceiling. Well, I could change it here in the dialog box, but the smartest thing to do is, if the majority of things I'm going to be designing would be to go to Edit Default Settings, Floor, and set this finished ceiling at 96 inches. So it'll automatically calculate on this on 5/8, which is very common in the United States, 5/8 sheetrock for ceilings. And floor finish, well, let's take a look at that. We've got 7/8 for this floor finish. And this is based on a pier and beam with sim walls. You can see it here in the graphic of 2x12s, 11 7/8, and plywood, or in this case, wafer board, or OSB they call it, on top at 3/4. So these things kind of add up and affect your overall settings. Now, I changed this before the roofs were done, and the roofs, I don't think roofs are automatically updating. Okay, they are automatically updating. So whatever I tell, let me demonstrate this so you understand. We'll do a cross section through this, and you can see that we'll draw a dimension over here so you can actually see it. Okay, there's 8 and 1/2. We'll go back to plan view. I hit Control Tab to go from one screen to the other, by the way. Yeah, there's the and it's measuring the structural in that. Hit Control Tab and go back to that. That's what that 8 and 1/2 is coming from. And if I go over here and just change the dialog box, so like I'm going to uncheck default and set it to 108. I'll go back to the camera. See, with auto rebuild roofs on, of course, it automatically compensated that rebuilt the roofs at the new height that I told it to be. But with auto roofs off, let me turn the auto roofs off, because there's certain things that the program will do. Will uncheck auto rebuild roofs, and then I'm going to go over here and change the ceiling height to 96 with auto roofs off. We'll go back to the camera. See, the roofs didn't move. The ceiling moved. It's a kind of a virtual ceiling line, but so if I wanted to, I could turn auto roofs back on, but if you have a really complicated roof system, maybe you don't want to do that. I'm going to shift select these roof planes. until they're all selected, and then just lower them using transform replicate. Minus 12 inches in the z-axis. Z-axis is up and down, or towards your nose, away from your nose, as you're looking in plan view. We'll go back to the camera view, and there it is. Oh, I missed one of them. Hang on. I could tell on the camera view that I missed one. Pretty sure it's this one. Let's see, 116 and 5/16. What's this one? I'm looking at the baseline figure. Yeah, okay, that's the one I missed. This one here. Let me do it in the camera view so you can actually see this. I'll just click on the roof plane. Here's another way to do it. You can lock the pitch and then whack 12 inches off. This is the way we did it in earlier versions before Transform Replicate tool was added. That would be minus 12 would be 144. Voila. So with Pro and other home designer products, you can't do that manual roof editing like I just did, but that's some basic stuff there. Now what about split levels? I'm not going to save that. I'll leave it open. I'll just hit Control Tab. Let's put an invisible wall and split this in half, well, roughly in half. Need to get it all the way across. And we'll set this one. I'm going to go over here to the floor and uncheck 0 and put minus 12. And it dropped the floor 12 inches. The ceiling, I didn't change. The ceiling stayed where it was. You might think as a new user that it would compensate for that, but no, it's not programmed to do that. You have to, if you have a taller ceiling over here, you have to tell it to. So over here, we'll go over here and when I dropped this floor 12 inches, it added it to the ceiling. So I'm going to raise the ceiling 12 inches up to 10 feet. The floor at minus 12, and there's the extra 12 inches of ceiling there. See, you have to tell the software to do certain things that you want it to do. Another thing, a misconception is you have to set the floor level to the terrain. Let's build some terrain. Okay, there's a terrain plane. And bring the edge of this up. And let's say that this is a garage over here. I'm just going to name it garage. And these room names are actually programming commands. In other words, these names come in with attributes. Now I've still got this elevation camera open, and I named this garage. And you may not notice it, but you see here we got 2x12s and stem walls. When I named it garage, it automatically gave it a 4-inch slab. It also amended the foundation and so forth. I wanted to put a garage there so I could put a garage door in this space. And I'll try them in drop-down mode. Okay. So there's a garage door. Now we'll look at this terrain from the outside in an elevation camera. And you move the terrain to the model. You can see when I clicked on the door there that it's slightly, the terrain's too high relative to the height of the garage. I never have figured out exactly how this auto-calculate elevation works. In other words, what data it's keying off of. I'm not a programmer, but I just know that if it's not where I want it, I'll uncheck this and set it to where I want it. Looks like the garage door is about 6 inches below grade. So let's just set it to 0, the terrain to 0, and see where it goes. Okay, I went higher. So we don't, if I wanted to go lower, then I would increase the value here. That's just the way they programmed it. I think it was set at minus 20 or something. We'll put it at minus 24. It's getting closer. I click on the door, and you can see I need to lower it about another 2 inches. And not that this is germane to all models, but just to demonstrate that this is how these tools work. Set that at -20. Okay. And I'll put a driveway in. Where's driveway? There's driveway. The driveway objects are about 1 inch thick. We'll open the dialog box on this driveway object that I just drew there. It's inch thick, inches high off of the terrain. We'll go back to this camera here, and you can see now that the driveway is right underneath the garage door, about wherever you would want it. If you don't want, in your elevations, if you don't want the foundation to show, you can just double-click on the terrain and make the skirt thicker to cover that up. I usually do. Make it 5.5 feet thick. Yeah, there you go. You always set the terrain to the model. You don't set the model to the terrain. If you have a topography map and you just make the topography relative to itself as an object, as a piece of topography, and then you set that finished topography to the house. Just like I just did. Normally the garage is at the lowest point on the house, and that's the reason I usually set the terrain to the garage. Okay, we'll cover a few other simple things about the program, and then I don't want to elongate this. I don't think I need this elevation here anymore. You get the idea. I raised the ceiling, I changed the floor levels, and depending on the complexity of your roofs, if you want the automatic roof generator to do most of your work for you, then you just think through how high you want the roof's bearing. Now, I did a tutorial on my website on the roof dialog box, and most carpenters think that this is the top plate, and that is where the top plate of the structural wall goes, right there. But the baseline of the roof in Chief Architect's actually up here where I'm pointing. So when you open a roof dialog box and it tells you the baseline, it's a point, a virtual point directly above the outside edge of the framing on the surface of the roof. Let me illustrate that. There's a baseline's 104 and 15/16 for this roof plane at this pitch for a 9-foot ceiling. You might expect the baseline of the roof to be down here where the top plate is, and that's not what this is saying. The baseline is 104, right at 105, and that's it right there where my cursor's pointing. Not where that dot is, that was just incidental. But right there. Top plate's down here, and you add the thickness of the rafter at the angle of your roof pitch, and then that'll give you your baseline figure. It's not that so much that you need to know exactly what that is. You just need to know the significance of that name, what it means. It doesn't mean down here, it means up here. Okay. Well, that covers this. Differing floor levels gives people trouble. And you might notice when I raised the ceiling over here, it coffered it. A coffer is where the roof becomes part of the ceiling. Let me show you that in an isometric camera view. Another common condition and common term. Yeah, you see where the ceiling is slanted there? That's called a coffer. And that's because I raised the ceiling here without raising the roofs. So the roofs become part of the detailing of the ceiling. And also in plan view, these little dash lines show where the flat of the ceiling meets the slant of the roof. I think layer-wise, that's on I think it's called ceiling lines now. In earlier versions, it was a different name. Ceiling break lines, there it is. See, there's no plus sign over here that they exist because you can't select them. You can only turn them on or turn them off. See, now they're off. But their purpose is to show you where the flat of the ceiling meets the slant of the roof. We'll turn that back on, and I think that'll be the end of this tutorial. But these are some basic things that throw new people a curve. And I thought I'd run over some of this stuff with the terrain, floor levels, and I've got lots of other tutorials on manual roof editing and stuff like that. But I think this is a nice addition to my lineup. Thank you for your kind attention.